Before getting started in this episode, here are upcoming public curbside comedy shows or shows with me in it. Bum, 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 bum. None again. Still in the Northeast, still wintertime. In that time, instead of catching one of our public shows, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Connor_Kvietchain. Spelling is in the description of the show. Review, rate this podcast, and if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. And two special requests. If you're interested, please go to my website, connorkvietchain.com, and sign up for the newsletter that I send out every other Monday. And if you've been to a Curbside Comedy show or hosted a Curbside Comedy show, please leave a review. I will put a link in this description. Without further ado, hello and welcome to What's Up With Me. My name is Connor Kvietchain, like I already said, and this is a show that's an autobiographical podcast about Connor Kvietchain, the comedian, some personal life, but mostly comedy stuff. Today I'm rocking a winter jacket in memory of the snowstorm that we had in Rhode Island a few days ago. This jacket is actually older than myself. It is my dad's. But I've seen a lot of good pictures, and I figured he was going to give it away, and I said, you know what? I'd love to have it, Dad. What is this show? What are we going to be talking about? Last show, we talked a lot about the future of curbside comedy in loose details. Not everything's put together yet. So we're going to be talking a bit about mental health in this podcast, very much in thanks to a question that I received. And we're going to be talking about my philosophy around comedy, maybe a little bit of the framework of curbside comedy moving forward. But with that roadmap, let's get into it. So I got a question this week. One question was actually 2 weeks ago from Christiana Flavo, and I'm pulling it up on Instagram. She'd messaged me. Christiana actually, I think she's the person outside of my family that I've seen in the most number of countries. When I studied abroad in London, she was nice enough to invite me to spend some time with her family on Thanksgiving in Italy. And then she ended up staying at my homestay parents' house when she was traveling back to the US. My homestay parents were the greatest people on earth. Jenny and Steve Oliver, 100% the best people. But Christiana and I haven't been in touch for a little while. She was my sister's college roommate. We became friends through that. And yeah, here's the question. And it's a really great one. She said, a question for Connor. What should I ask? My mind went to asking, what have you been doing to maintain your personal mental health? Mental health, work-life balance, managing the incredibly heavy layers of anxiety we're all carrying around these days to become certainly a greater focus of mine. And I would love, and I see it popping up all around me too. Never have so many of my circles, friends, families so transparently talked about their mental health. It's such a topic of conversation now, but I find it so interesting to be thinking and talking so much about something that's always been so taboo, stigmatized, and brushed under the rug. So that's a long-winded way to express the question I had for you, which is, how have you been dealing with your own mental health through this year? I love the detail. I love the thought in that question. This year, let's start with the basics of the question. This year has seen a lot of pieces to it. It is actually wild. If you go back to the beginning of 2020, I was on a rooftop in Manhattan watching fireworks go off, and I could see the Empire State Building. I just started seeing a girl who was fantastic, and it didn't work out because of me trying to figure out too much in my life. And that gets into the topic of mental health as well. But that's where it started. Planning to move in with some great people in New York City, and then the pandemic hit. So, and that's been most of the year. That's been since March. But the year started off very differently. And obviously, as things have changed, dealing with mental health changes as well. So, yeah, I mean, the way I addressed my mental health before while I was open to the topic and I'm aware of family history, which I think everyone should be, you should have conversations. My parents have had conversations with me about people in my family who have struggled with mental health and mental illness. And I think those are really important conversations to have had because it's like, I don't know, it shouldn't be taboo because if my uncle, my aunt, my grandparent broke an arm, my parents would tell me. If my aunt, uncle, or grandparent was having a mental illness, they would tell me. They should tell me. They should. If my aunt or uncle or grandparent was sick with the flu or COVID, they would tell me. I mean, it's a health issue, so we should be talking about it. So I'm very thankful that I've had those conversations, and while I'm open and comfortable talking about it, I've never really broken the stigma of brushing it under the rug. I was trying to do a lot. I was trying to put 20 pounds in a 10-pound bag. I was trying to get 2 punchlines out of a joke that only should have one. I mean, it's one of those things where I'm like, let me keep stacking stuff on top of myself. And because the world felt so moving forward, I don't know if that's the right phrase, but like everything felt like it was continuing to move forward. So I wasn't looking back and checking on myself all that much. So that's how I was dealing with it at the very beginning of the year. COVID came, and I think most people had a lot more time to reflect on themselves. And I've grown a lot during COVID as a comedian and in terms of mental health. But I think because I'm spending so much time with myself now, I mean, the only time I'm really out is performing because I feel such a responsibility to audiences to make sure that they feel safe, that I'm not the one bringing anything into their bubble, that I'm rarely out. And because I have that much extra time myself, I'm able to pick up on more things. Doesn't mean I'm necessarily able to address it, but I'm able to be a little bit more honest with myself and notice patterns that I wasn't able to before. I don't, how am I mean, I wish I had I like in the future. I think I'm gonna end up seeing a therapist. I think it's a smart thing to do. Right now, I'm not exactly sure how that works with my healthcare, which is a bigger issue and doesn't necessarily need to be political, although it is at the moment. Um, that's the step I would like to take because I do think I would very much benefit from that. So, to get to the crux of the question, how have I been dealing with it? I mean, I'm just trying to recognize and not push things under the rug as much. I'm going, well, I'm sleeping extra, I'm losing motivation on these days. I haven't seen people outside of my roommates in a long time. Maybe that social connection, seeing my parents going out and catching a friend in a safe way would really benefit me. So being able to recognize it and then adjust and make myself, I don't know, start to feel better and break out of bad habits. But I don't know. I think I don't have a solid strategy. I guess there's no shame in that because in this country we shame mental health, mental illness, and so if we're shaming, if we collectively shame mental health and mental illness, there shouldn't. And we're also, I don't know. It's a hard thing. I guess it shouldn't be unexpected that I don't have a solid strategy, but because of this question, because of, friends and family reaching out, it's definitely something I think a lot more about and want to get better at. But this ties in the question about mental health and how I deal with it ties in a lot to stand-up comedy in general. I feel so much better psychologically performing. And I think, like I said, I rarely go out other than when I'm performing. So I think that has a lot to do with why I feel so much better. But stand-up frees me in a way that I don't feel free most other times. I know myself very much to be a person who does not want to be somewhere unless they feel welcome, unless they feel invited. Um, I don't know if it's necessarily imposter syndrome, but like, I think I have an acute sense of when I may not be wanted. And if I'm not wanted, I'm going to go do something by myself. And stand up comedy is a solo act while you are on stage in front of an audience. It is not a dialogue, it is a monologue. So in some ways it is, it's very solitary by nature. But stand up, like, I tend to be a person who's not, I wouldn't say conservative in personality, but I like to stay fairly neutral. I don't get too worked up. I don't get too upset. I don't get too overexcited about things. But when I go on stage, you're supposed to play to those emotions. So those things that I keep right underneath the surface in a public setting with friends, I'm able to bring out and play on. And those are the things that I talk about on stage, things that I get really excited about in ways that I don't as a normal person traditionally. Probably because the same way I don't want to feel, I want to feel welcomed. I want my emotions to feel welcomed. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But yeah, stand-up comedy is very freeing. And I've always known that. I've always known that to be true for myself. And people a lot of times have asked how I got started in stand-up comedy at Curbside Comedy shows. And I've always known. I have always been aware of why. My sophomore going into junior year of college, I was depressed. No question. Not like I'm in a phase like I can be here and there during COVID. I was depressed. I should have been seeing someone about it, but like there was no ideation, no suicide ideation. But like I understood why, very much so, for myself, because life is weighing me down in such a way that the cyclical nature, the things you have to do every day, making breakfast, getting up, taking care of yourself, was weighing on me in such a way that I was like, why do I got to do this every single day? But I felt so stuck in that routine that everything just felt so heavy. And it was like that for 10 weeks at least. Yeah, just this weight, like getting up, like, why again? And what I realized is I needed to be able to step out of that cycle, of that thought process. I needed some form of escapism, because life, I mean, you think about it, life is cyclical. We have seasons, we have days and nights. They all, I mean, the clock's based in a circle. Excuse me, I'm gonna grab a tissue. Everything's so cyclical. I wanted to be able to step out, and that's what I realized, because I already had an interest in comedy, but it solidified when I realized comedy is very much for me an ability to step out of that cyclical nature. It's a form of escapism, and the goal of stand-up comedy is to laugh, which laughter is a natural reaction, I think, a lot of times to something that we feel not uncomfortable, but it's a surprising. You're able to step out and like look at things from an objective observer and go, this pattern is so much the same, but look at this thing over here. Isn't that weird when you think about it? And then you get a laugh. And I realized, like, that's what I needed in a very personal way. I needed to be able to step out, look at something else and go, yeah, that is funny. And then from that strength, look at the cyclical nature of life and go, oh yeah, that's funny too. And so when I realized I needed that so much in my own personal life, I realized that's what I wanted to do for other people. And I thought, if I can do that for other people and sustain my life in a way that's rewarding for me and I can get by, why not do that? And that is the very much that's like the basis of why I want to get into stand up. It was a lot for my own mental health and supporting other people and theirs. And I've yeah, it's just been like stand up comedy helped me get out of depression, major depression. I think stand up comedy, in a lot of ways during COVID, helps me get out of it. Even when I'm writing about it and thinking about it, it's amazing. Like it's such a like I've been practicing impressions, working on John Travolta, young John Travolta. And when I think about that and trying to get into his head, I'm like stepping outside of all this stuff, all the anxiety in my own life, just for a brief second. And so yeah, that's kind of I that ties into my philosophy of stand-up, right? It's this escapism. It's a way to feel better. It's a way to laugh. I mean, that's beautiful. That's why I do it. That is 100% why I do it. And that from that base, obviously other reasons have come off of it. Other rewards, personal rewards have come from it. But the more I think about it and the more I've been sitting in my room working on the future of Curbside Comedy, the more I realize like, I don't think I could love doing anything else nearly as much. I think that's that passion, lack of passion for other things has been holding me back. And the fact that I can do this and feel really, feel emotionally well, expressive in ways that I can't otherwise is amazing. And that's why I do it. Huh. I guess, as YouTubers say, if you had a reason why you do stand up, feel free to comment in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. But yeah, I mean, mental health and comedy have a long and storied connection. I've been listening to the Mental Health Comedy Podcast by Ed Krasnick. Trevor and I were on the radio with him. I think I talked about this 2 episodes ago. Check that out. They actually talk about addressing mental health in the same way people address physical health, things you can actually do to work on your mental health. So yeah, that's all that good stuff. I'm going to probably wrap up shortly because, like I said up top, there's still a lot of not question marks. I'm closing in on the future of Curbside Comedy, what that looks like. I don't want to give too much away before it's all set in stone. I'm the type of person who tends to talk before the actions come through. I don't want to do that. I want to make sure I'm doing everything right and I have everything in line before saying, this is what Curbside Comedy is going to be. And then it all falls apart due to unforeseen things. But what I've been working on with Curbside Comedy is a website. Amber Schottke is going to be helping me this upcoming week with a website. She's a friend from college who works in graphic design and web development, web design. And then getting a logo together, which Jack Swimer, a very creative graphic designer, has offered to help with. I went to high school with him. I love his designs. So I'm very thankful to him for all of that. And you should check out his work, support him, support all the arts. I think that's something that needs to be done more often. And I think I will be moving to Tampa. It's like 95% likelihood, but you never know. All that said, if you know people in Tampa who like comedy, do comedy, or just want to laugh, have them connect with me through social media. Instagram's the best at Connor_Kfiecin, because I'd love to get in touch with them. Curbside Comedy works a lot based on networks and velocity of booking. So the more people I know, the quicker I can book shows. And I've talked a lot about before, the more people who are interested in Curbside Comedy, the more people I connect to that. Like I tend to meet phenomenal people who are very open, and willing to help. So yeah, that's a lot of what's up with me. I really appreciate the question. Scabs, Christiana, Scabs nickname. And it's like a lot of what's up with me is a way to reflect on myself and mental health with the lack, like we just haven't had a ton of shows, Curbside Comedy. So I've had a lot more time to think. I've gone through stretches of like 4 or 5 days. I'm like, oh, I haven't gone outside, and it's not great. So the ability to have this question, then look and ask myself, what is up with me? I really appreciate it. If you have questions for future episodes, connect with me on social media. Send me an email at comedy@connorkfietchain.com. Head to my website, connorkfietchain.com. Stay up to date with what's happening with Curbside Comedy. I think in the next episode, it will be a big one on explaining what the future actually looks like. But in this downtime, which isn't really downtime, I've been doing a lot of work in getting the future put together. It's great to have some time to reflect and think about myself and what I like and how do I stay healthy. Also, I got a new jacket. I'm gonna leave that right at the end. I got a new jacket. I've been wearing this burgundy one that I got at Goodwill for $5 for the first 44 shows. 45th show, I got a nice navy blue one. So, yeah, what else? I think that's mostly it. Check out Good News, a podcast. I talked about that a lot last time. The Kickstarter's still ongoing for that. Also, reflecting on that story about my depression, I want to give a big shout out to my parents who asked me, directly what's going on, and I told them, and they couldn't have responded in a better way. And so I'm really thankful for that. Also, if you're in the greater Derry, New Hampshire area, check out the Jason R. Flood Memorial. That's an organization that does a lot with mental health. They have helped Trevor and I get bookings. We have hosted an event for them. But there's a lot. If you're in an area and you want help with mental health, there's a lot of great local organizations that tend to provide access to resources or have support groups, safe spaces to talk about these things. They provide a lot of great information, including the fact that you shouldn't be scared to talk about it. Say it like it is. And saying something does not asking if something's coming up, like about suicide, if someone's thinking about suicide or other mental health things, just because you ask about it does not mean the person's more likely to do it. It's quite the opposite. And sometimes they just need to talk and have those open conversations. I'm not an expert in any of it, but that's what I've been hearing a lot of. And whatever I can do to help pass along positive information about mental health during this time, I'm happy to do so. But there's great organizations out there who can do it just as well. All that said, happy belated Halloween. Thank you for the jacket very much, Dad. The election's coming up, so here we go. Thank you for listening so much to What's Up With Me. Check back 2 Mondays from now to hear a lot more, hopefully about Curbside Comedy when all that's solidified. Thank you so much for the questions. Said a lot about those, how to connect with me. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, like I already said. All that good stuff. Please continue to be supportive as you all have been. I really do appreciate it. And I'm hoping I'm still got a good feeling. This is the beginning of something much bigger. So thank you so much. Thank you. I tend to be long-winded when I've thought about something I haven't thought about in a long time. I'm thinking about mental health in bits and pieces, but finally had an opportunity to sit down and collectively look at it over a 25-minute period and just, a lot to think about, and I'll continue to think about it. Thank you so much, and I wish you all the best. Bye.